Hey, what's up, guys? Horcrux. Today I'm gonna be talking to you about some alternatives to the Yin and Yang build. Um, from recent playtesting, that build's not as easy as I thought it would be. Um, Played a couple days with it in BGs and in open world CP. It is a little challenging at times, even for me, and I have thousands of hours on a sorcerer class. So today, I'm gonna be bringing you less efficient, but probably better alternatives to the build. You get about the same damage. Not nearly as much sustain as far as your stamina and magic is concerned, but enough to get the job done. So I have a few builds here. Really depends on your playstyle. I have some builds in no CP, some builds with a master staff. So there should be something here for you guys to kind of choose from, especially if you just want to equip build to jump into Cyrodiil with on your Mag Sorc. So without further ado, this is the overall best. You can take this into CP, no CP. Doesn't really matter where you put this build is going to perform well. So the first set's going to be spinners. We got Nirnhone trait. This can be whatever. Nirnhone sharp and infused, even charged. If you're dueling, charged would be the best because of force pulse. You are always inflicting all the status effects all the time. It's pretty underrated in my opinion. So we got 5-piece spinners. On our back bar, we're running a 5-piece lich, the best sustain set in the game. We have our berserker enchant on the back bar, defending just cause you're not really proccing your shit on your back bar off cooldown. This is mostly defensive bar that you don't want to be on if you can help it. So uh, another note: shock and proc concuss, which makes you do 8% more damage. Last set, well, no, second to last set we're running is Engine Guardian. Never mind these traits. It can be either well fitted or impenetrable with the 1350 blanket crit resist that all classes have now. You can get away with not running impin on every single piece of gear that you ever own. Well fitted is a very good alternative. I wouldn't really suggest any other trait, but you could go like half and half, or just say fuck it and just go all well fitted and just be a roly poly oly. I mean, it's very effective, to be honest. You want prismatic enchants on your big pieces, just so you have more health. Sitting around 19k health with this build right now. It's a little low, but uh, it doesn't really seem to matter all too much. The last set we're running is just 2-piece willpower. Um, the good thing about running Lich and Spinners, um, you can have one on the front bar, one on the back bar, and that frees up a couple extra slots on your gear, so you can kind of min-max it for you elitists out there. So the other the other set we're running is willpower. Alternatively, you could run a Potentate, which of course I don't have any of that on me right now, but Potentate just reduces your damage by 5%. But I feel that on a Mag Sorc in particular, having the extra max mag for your ward size as well as your damage is just the better way to go. All spell demos on everything. You don't need anything. You don't need any sustain. We're high elf. You got the high elf passives. You have the lich proc, and then you have EG proc, and then it doesn't matter what EG gives you. You can dark conversion. Say if it's a stamina proc, you can just dark conversion the stamina to magicka. So on the character sheet, here's what everything looks like. Uh, I know it seems pretty low. It's really not that low in reality. Uh, Back bars, everything looks like. Well, fuck me. You'll get about the 2800 magic recovery with the lich proc, and then with your potions you'll go over 3k. And then on top of that you have the EG. It's a both tanky and sustain set. Really high stamina pool. On this build we are going to be running tripods though, because our stamina recovery is quite low, and also that 664 is my old area code back to where I used to live. So that's pretty cool. Spell crit will go up to 39. See, I got the wrong skill on for this first build. First build, since we're running tripods, you won't have inner light instead of your execute. So here's a more more, you know, here you go. Crit resist, like I said, 3k. Doesn't need to be that high, but it is what it is for now. I just don't feel like changing everything because, quite frankly, I don't have the stones for it. Skill wise, pretty standard. Curse Frag, pretty high tooltips without being buffed. Like it's 14k tooltip with nothing going on. I mean, if you fully buff it up, you're up to 16k, so that's pretty good. Very good actually, considering you have a lot of spell pin as well. About 15k worth of spell pin when you include the spinners. And if you was to use the spinners with a sharpened trait, which I also recommend, that'll definitely put you well over 15k. And then if you really wanted to go all out, you could put a prismatic onslaught enchantment on. So when you're fighting vampires, you're applying incredible pressure all the time. Alright, so back to the skills. Inner Light, this gives a little bit more damage, and then since we're running tripods, we need the crit, so that's why this is here. Next, Crushing Shock. For us console users, I suggest Crushing, because it's a lot more fluent, a lot more reactive, whereas if you use the Stygic Order skill line, the LA weapon, it feels very wonky sometimes. So, with that being said, that's why I'm running Crushing Shock. Streak, pretty much essential. If you don't run this on your sorcerer, you better be hella tanky. Hella tanky. This is used as a primary CC skill shot. Cannot be dodged. Cannot be blocked. Amazing for setting up burst. The changes to where it stuns people behind you now is absolutely incredible. Very rarely would I ever pick Ball Lightning over Streak. Ball Lightning no longer stuns. Yeah, it uses projectiles, but just the stun to help alleviate some of the pressure and to drain your enemy's stand pool is just really good. Ultimate running is Shooting Star. Alternatively, you could run Frank. Frank's pretty fucking badass, but I'm just running Shooting Star for now. It's a preference, to be honest. Don't run Ice Column. There's a lot of vampires, so just run Shooting Star, does flame damage. Back bar, we're only running one ward. I found this patch that double ward stacking is just not the way to go. It eats through your resources, and there's just better alternatives to play. The Sorcerer skill kit is highly versatile, and if you just kind of think outside the box a little bit, just the simple stamina sustain and having a shit ton of roll dodge capability really turns up the potential of this class. So Dark Conversion, this is just here for an EG. Really dicks us down and doesn't give us the resources we need. At least we can convert the stamina to Magicka. Hardened Ward, pretty basic. Don't run the other one. Rapid Regen. This is one of the most efficient HOTS in the game, if not the most efficient. I kind of keep both of these up at the same time. It's super cheap compared to Hardened Ward, and overall it's going to give you a more effective health because this can crit and wards cannot. So it costs like 2/3 or 1/3 the cost. Oh, yeah, 2/3 the cost. So definitely a must. Critical Surge. Since we do have pretty high crit, we're running Crit Surge for sure. Since healing's been nerfed this patch, well, this has not been nerfed technically because this is a flat 3300. This does not fluctuate with the skill no matter how much max mag or spell damage you have. It's a flat 3300, and yes, it can crit. So the heals to Critical Surge have been relatively unchanged, and this is really good coupling with Boundless Storm, because Boundless Storm can keep your crits up when you're not able to pressure back. So these two pretty much keep you healed up and then topped off, and then use Rapid Regen when you're starting to get around the 60-70% threshold to get you back up. On the back bar, I have a Temporal Guard. You can swap this out for a Life Giver. Life Giver really doesn't give you any counterplay potential, to be honest. It just allows you to live for like 5 seconds. Whereas Temporal Guard does give you a passive 8% damage mitigation on your back bar. And you can potentially outplay people by jumping off an edge, having them chase you, and then you undo, back up. So it helps thin the herd, alleviating pressure that way. This is pretty standard. A lot of people don't like Mines. Mines is a super underrated skill. It is probably my favorite sorcerer skill, to be honest. I'll show you the next build. I'll show you has Mines. You can replace this possibly with either Crit Surge or Boundless. Really depends what potions you're using. Since I'm running tripods, I would probably, if I want to run Mines, take off Boundless. But It's preference, entirely up to you guys. Alright, so the next build we're going to be utilizing is with the Master's Inferno. Keep in mind, our max and Magicka pool is going to be relatively low, but this patch, it really doesn't matter as long as you're being proactive and kind of seeing what's going to hit you and what's not going to hit you. As long as you're roll dodging correctly, as long as you have a lot of mobility on a sorcerer. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't, because you do. Never mind these traits. These traits are absolute dog shit, but I'm doing just well with them. Luckily, I got one imp piece, thank God. This is probably the most sustaining build you're gonna have. You'll never run out of resources, no matter what. We are using the Master's Perfected Inferno for those of you who prefer this playstyle. It's really good. It gives you 100 intrinsic spell damage plus 700. Oh, excuse me, 600 whenever you use your stun. Now, you do not necessarily have to run the clinch, the stun. You can just run the one that gives you the damage over time, which might actually be better in all honesty. But for now, I'm just using the clinch for the CC because the clinch into a meteor frag aesthetically is very pleasing to me. So how you would run this, you'd have this on your front bar with your streak. I love having streak in the front bar. It's the most offensive ability in the game. Having a back bar just kind of takes too long to kind of fumble in between bars just to get a CC, and you know it's kind of annoying. You can't animation cancel your bar swaps and shit, so that does add milliseconds of downtime. So if you do run this, we're not running tripods just for the simple fact that we have 1,000 stamina recovery just intrinsically, hella magic recovery, not including the Lich proc, not including the EG procs. Crit resist, like I said, you'll have a shit ton of well fitted, ideally. Maximum Magicka is low, but that's not really how you play this build. This is for the players that probably main stamina, who just want to be up in someone's face and roll dodge indefinitely. This will be the setup for you. So what I would suggest, since we not really worried about, I mean, there's two different ways to run this. Is you run it as is, the way it is right now, okay? Or stake off balance, put on mines. Pretty much the same shit. So what you're trading off about 3k max Magicka, which is your ward size, for a lot more stamina sustain. And the way you play this build, you want to get up in their face and use your mines to kind of line of sight as much as you can. You can spam mines all the time, and just the sheer amount of, not only does it do shit ton of damage, if they try to roll dodge through, you're gonna hit like 2 or 3 of these mines. It's really gonna hurt. Plus they're rooted, so the more you can keep mines up, the better. You know, kind of waste your enemy stand pool. Heals wise, you have hella spell damage. Let's just go ahead and, you know, so we're up to like 4,400. I'm not sure what that equates to in terms of damage. Just give me 1 second here. I haven't really played around with it all too much, to be honest. It's just looking at the stats wise. So, you know, you're up to 16.5k frags. It's about as hard as hitting the other one, but you do have a shit ton more stamina sustain. So you don't have to worry about running expensive tripods all the time. So this is one build. Now, if you're running no CP, which is what I've been doing, and keep in mind, this is not the most efficient way to set this up, but it does do what it needs to do. So you're going to be running the Malekith Spam Brutality. On a Sorcerer, typically when you run this, you will want to run a heavy armor as well, just because you can't crit anyway. So what's the point of having, you know, light armor at the crit? Well, the point of having light armor at crit is pretty much everything in every other thing in the passive skill line, to be honest. You get sustain, you get the snare reduction, which is very noticeable, I might add. You get the cost reduction, and you get the spell pin still yet. So just because I have 10% wasted spell crit, you know, you have to think to yourself, does that outweigh what I get from here. I get a little bit more health. I get a little bit more healing, which as a sorcerer you're not too worried about anyway. You're using wards. And your constitution passive, like, the whole point of the sorcerer is to not get hit. So having that really just doesn't, logically make sense to me. So yeah, just go with light armor. Anyone who runs heavy armor, your sorcerer, you're probably playing the kit wrong. To be honest, I won't be mean, but you're probably definitely playing the kit wrong. All right, so in this one, however, since we're not worried about crit, we will have access to our execute. I hate this fucking execute, to be honest. It's so buggy sometimes. I wish they would revert it to where it would apply the debuff to the enemy, not necessarily the damage instance, but the debuff nonetheless if they roll dodge. But they took that out. This is probably the worst execute in the game. It does fuck all for damage. Like, nothing, dude. Like, this procs all the time, and it just doesn't kill anyone. They still live with like 2k health. It's pretty dumb. It needs a little bit of love. Maybe like a 10-15% damage buff. But it's my humble opinion. Skills are going to be the same on the front bar. Streak, always front bar. Such a playmaker, such a good ability. You can run Frank. Frank's pretty annoying and no CP. It's impossible to kill, and yeah, shooting star really good too. Back bar, get rid of crit surge. Get rid of crit surge. You can instead replace that with, since we will be running tripods in no CP, just because it's hard to sustain in all pools. I'll be running structured entropy or degeneration. I don't have it morphed because I'm a noob. You just get more out of this. It applies a dot. Plus, you can get some heals with your light attacks if you use degeneration. Crit surge. Well, you're not critting, so you're not getting half the effect of that skill. Healing with your crit. So run entropy, and then the other ability you could run either channel acceleration as your flex spot for your Daedric minefields, or you can just go with the standard lightning form. It gives you your speed boost, plus it gives you your 10% damage mitigation. So these are the skills I would run. Now, when it comes to the actual sets, it's very similar to our very first build. We're still going to run Lich and Spinners. So you're going to take off the Amber Plasm because you do need a little bit of max mag. Not a lot, but you still do need access to some because no CP is very strenuous on your word sizes. Very, very terrible. So this one I would probably run Sharpened and no CP. Nirnhone really doesn't matter. Backbar Lich like always. Engine Guardian. Spinner's Lich, definitely the way to go. This is the most efficient way to run this, but you can just put 4-piece Lich on the body. Yeah, you're going to kind of not to get, well, I don't have all the correct pieces apparently. 1 spinners, 2, 3, 4. One of these got to be spinner pieces. Oh, wait, it's a jewelry. My bad. Might be. Okay, so for no CP, I do have 1 cost reduction. 2 spell damage on the jewelry. So we're going to have a 4-piece Lich on the body just because I want the recovery on both bars. We have access to the Malacanth ring. Then spinner's front bar. Take a look at the character sheet. I'm not sure how it's going to be. We'll see. Okay, see, I don't think entropy gives us the spell damage buff. Yeah, so with the spell damage buff, we're kind of looking at, what the fuck are we looking at? Kind of something like this. Around 14k, whatever, no CP. That 14k, 15k doesn't reflect the... This ring does not reflect the tooltip at all. It's just 25% kind of afterwards. So keep in mind on this build you will be running tripods because your stamina sustain is pretty abysmal. So with all that being said, fellas, there's your 3 alternative builds to the yin yang. I will be playing quite extensively today. I'll try to get some clips for you guys. The educational commentary that I posted yesterday was using the very first build that I mentioned. It's probably overall all around the best. So, with that being said, fellas, hope you have a great day. You found any of this a little bit insightful. There's really nothing else to go over besides champion points. Champion points pretty basic. Anything you think you might need. Your recoveries, block, roll, dodge. Blue trees, pretty standard. Put all your points in the Elfborn, Ellie Expert, Spell Erosion, Master at Arms. Cap this off 11. Maybe 20% Elfborn. Spell Erosion's about right. Get this up to 22%. Ironclad, Resistant, Hardy, Ellie, Thick Skinned. A lot of points in the bash. And get this up to like 20, 21%. Get your this up to 20, 21%. Resistant you can kind of play around with. And then just toss the rest of your points in these three right here. Now, if you do have max CP, you may want to take a little bit of points out of here, just so you can run the Unchained passive. This is very helpful in Dark Conversion when you're breaking free. Other than that, fellas, that's the builds. Hopefully you find one of them pretty enjoyable. They're not too hard to farm. Spinners you can buy. Willpower you can buy. Malacast Ring, yeah, it takes a little bit of farming. It takes about 4 or 5 hours of leveling, but Outcast has a great guide for that. And Lich is pretty easy to farm as well. Just, fingers crossed for that Restoration Staff drop. So this has been Horcrux, fellas, and hopefully y'all have a good day. Deuces.